Blessings to all of you watching this, and welcome to another Catholica commentary. Today I'd like to take up or extend a discussion that started a few days ago in Catholica as a result of my publishing the report of the plenary of the Australian Catholic Bishops' meeting at the end of November. It's led to an interesting discussion on the forum about the glaring contradictions in Catholic moral teaching, and quite a few people have contributed to that discussion, those very critical and those defending the institution. I don't so much want to discuss that issue as another one, which is the reason I published the report. I did that for two reasons. One is simply trying to do the bishops a favour in that they have these meetings, they fly in bishops from all around the country. It must cost a fortune, and you look at the photos on the web of the event, you know, and you can see that these things are not easily organised or cheaply organised, and then they publish these reports, and not even the diocesan media pays much attention to them and publishes what the bishops have been talking about. So the grassroots of the church don't really have an insight into what bishops discuss at their big meetings, unless something controversial comes up and the secular media take it up. So that was one reason I published it. The second reason was sort of a contradiction to that, in that they go to all this trouble, all this expense, and then they don't say much. You know, the big issues, you know, the church is facing a crisis at the moment. Nearly 90% of people have said, you know, forget it. We're not going to church anymore. We're not listening to the bishops. And the percentage of young people is even worse than for oldies like ourselves who can remember the exciting days of the church of a few decades ago. Young people today that I speak to are just, the vast majority of them just say, Barleys, you know, the church doesn't have anything to say to us. So, you know, the bishops meet at these meetings and discuss these things, but it's the real issues that need discussion aren't even on the table. You know, they're not allowed to discuss it. And that's what I want to cover in today's commentary. The moral contradictions in Catholicism are one thing, and I think they're an important thing. As I said, I don't want to really get into that with what I'm going to say today, because I think there's a bigger cultural problem that the institution has. And it really comes down to our model or our understanding of what this whole spiritual game is about. The problem, it seems to me, from both working in the institution and from, you know, the position I have now, which is more a observer on the sidelines, very interested in the church, but you know, I'm not actively involved at any parish or diocesan level these days, is that everybody, from local parish priests to school principals to Catholic journalists to bishops themselves, the whole communication paradigm of the institution is everybody is constantly looking over their shoulder to see if they're not making a mistake or they're not upsetting the Pope. Basically, it all goes right back up to the Pope. Now, the model that we seem to have is that God speaks to the Pope and the Pope discerns the great wisdom of the divine, and he disgorges that to us, the simple faithful. Now, I think one of the main reasons so many people are becoming disenchanted is that they disagree with that model. They don't believe anymore that there's great wisdom in the priests and the bishops and even the Pope. You know, they don't have a special royal telephone to God. The understanding that I think people are developing is that God, or this mystery, you know, we keep thinking, we say the word God and we think of the old man in the sky, but it's not that picture. God is something that we can't express in words, but who's the originator, the creator, who's the animator of life today, who is the source of all the laws of science, of how the whole structure is held together, how it develops, how it unfolds in time. This God, this mystery, speaks through all of humankind. The role of the Church is not as some royal telephone that the Pope's up there and he's got all the wisdom. The role of the Church is to discern what this mystery we call God is saying through all of humankind. Now it's confusing. We've got to admit that you know, everybody is driven by ego or sidetracked by ego, and we're also sidetracked by our anxieties and our experiences of past pain, and we don't want to experience that again, and that governs the decisions we make for the future. Now, we need a process to be able to discern what is truly of the Spirit, what is truly of divine quality, and what is purely our ego speaking to us, or our anxieties and our hurts speaking to us. And that mechanism ought be church. And it's a whole of humanity exercise in the end that we need to engage in, and we need an institution that can lead that process. But that's a different model to the one we have of the Pope up here who's got the royal telephone to God, and he will decide what God is saying. This is a process where we still need a Pope or somebody who's going to coordinate this whole exercise, who's going to have a position of primacy amongst human beings. But it is not primacy in the sense of he's got the royal telephone. It is primacy in the sense of, and the Church has used this expression, servant of the servants of the people. The Pope and the bishops, the magisterium, help discern what God, the divine, is saying to humanity. And it's in the sense of the big laws and so on, but it's also in the sense of the particular. You know, the average family person has a problem with a teenage child, you know, who's run away or something, or a problem in their marriage, or a problem in their workplace, or a person faced with moral decisions. We've got a big one in the world at the moment with this Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. You know, often people are in a position where they come across information which they wouldn't normally be able to access, and they have a moral challenge as to whether they shut up about this, so that it's none of their business, or whether they have a duty and a responsibility to their community or even to wider humanity to disclose this to the world at large. Or sometimes there's a middle course that you you come across some information and you report it to an appropriate authority, such as a policeman or you know, a court or a parliament or a school principal or somebody in a position of authority, and you don't broadcast it to the whole world, but you leave it to the official or the designated body in society that's there to solve the problem. Christ had some wonderful things to say about this in Matthew 18, I think it is, the process of how we resolve disputes and the steps that we need to go through from the private negotiation through to up to reporting it to the whole community. Now, they're examples of stuff that the church ought to be speaking about and guiding people as to how they make decisions. But today, the institution seems to be pandering. I call them the Sharons of this world, you know, who are constantly, you know, yes, Father, no, Father, yes, what's the Pope said about this or that. It's life arse about, upside down, you know. That's not how you live. That's not how you get to heaven. That's not how you become a saint. That's not how you become a fully individuated human being who has divine-like qualities, who can make decisions as God would make if God was standing in our shoes and faced with difficult decisions. What I'm saying is that I think we see a glimpse of the underlying cultural problem as to why the issues can't be addressed. And it all comes down to this belief in this small sector of the community, the Taliban of Catholicism, who control the agenda, and you cannot talk about anything without upsetting these people. And they have stifled all genuine communication in the church. Even bishops and priests have a whole agenda of issues these days, which they do not preach in homilies. They don't go within a bull's roar of tackling these subjects because it'll upset that small sector of the community. So they've found these safe issues to talk about that don't upset anybody, and but it also doesn't advance civilization, and our institution is just becoming more and more and more irrelevant. So that's all I've got to say today. Thank you for the wonderful discussion that's been going on. I'd like to contribute to the issue of the moral contradictions, and I think there are some big ones today, and I've written about those at other times, but we'll leave that for another day. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all your support of Catholica. It's been another fabulous year. I published some figures the other day that our readership numbers are up considerably this month compared to the similar period last year, and the same thing happened for November and October. So we're doing really well. I'm very pleased at our progress. Thank you again.